So, welcome everybody to the Shabbat class. This Shabbat is a Shabbat Vayishlach, and what we read about is Jacob returning to the land after 20 years in exile. And this is the first exile, real exile. And there's a concept that we have been talking about that our rabbis teach us that is whatever happens to our forefathers and mothers will happen to the children. Maaseh avot siman babanim. So whatever happens to the parents will happen to the children. So this is a foreshadowing of what will happen to the children of Israel in their future when they will be exiled. So Jacob runs away 20 years prior from his brother Esau because he stole his blessing, and he's afraid that he will kill him, and he runs away. And he goes to his uncle Laban, and he works there very hard for 20 years, and Laban cheats him left and right. But when the children of Israel and the people of Israel, just like in Egypt, when they were under slavery, they flourished. It says, as they were pressing them, they flourished. There's something about our people that is linked to or is imagined as we are in an olive press. So when to get the oil out of the olive, you have to press it, right? You press it hard. And we're just before Hanukkah, and the whole story of the pure jug of oil, that is how you get the oil. You press the olive. So the people of Israel are the same. You press them and then you get the oil out. So he was pressed in his uncle's Laban's house, but he also got the oil out. He was pressed, but he flourished, and he had his 11 children out of 12, and the 12th one was on his way. But at a certain point, he understood that Laban is trying to keep him there as an enslaved or indentured servant. So he will never be able to fulfill the prophecy that God gives him if he stays at Laban's house. So he understands that he has to leave. So he takes his children and his wives, and that's how the last Shabbat parasha ends. That Jacob leaves, and now he is just about to enter the land. He's on the other side of the Yabok passage in the Jordan River. So again, this is another foreshadowing of the children of Israel crossing back into the land, the Jordan River. So that night, he's on the verge of transformation. So it is every time we leave and we come back from the land, there are many images that we can connect to that. One is the resurrection. We left the land, we left the source of our life. So the soul, the Shekhinah, leaves, and then it comes back. So that is one image that we connect to exile versus returning to the land, death and then resurrection. But then, of course, it is about transformation and conversion. That's definitely a conversion. So there's a spot on the Jordan River. It's just north of the Dead Sea, that today it's called Qasr al Yahud in Arabic, the Jewish bridge, the bridge of the Hebrews, and it indicates the place where the Israelites crossed back from Egypt after the 40 years in the desert. So then they come back through that spot, and that spot, then later on, Elijah goes up to heaven through the same spot. And then later on in the New Testament, John the Baptist baptizes Jesus there. So this is a place of transformation. So every time we go back and forth over the Jordan River, it's either resurrection, transformation, or conversion. Okay. Leah, did you want to ask something?
I said the one with the phone glitch.
Okay, but I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, so then something happens that night that is so significant that it really takes its own story. So just before they crossed, Jacob knows that he is returning to the land, but he also knows that his brother still maybe wants to kill him. And Esav at this point is a very powerful man with an army, and he also, God blessed him. So Jacob doesn't know what's going to happen. And his children are young, and he's afraid. And he prays to God. So he sends out, it says malachim. Malachim can be in Hebrew either angels or messengers. So he sends messengers to his brother's land, to where his brother lives in Seir, and the messengers come back saying that that Esau is actually going to come and greet him too. He heard that Jacob is coming, but he's coming with 400 men. And Jacob is now, if he was afraid before or concerned, now he is totally trembling. He's afraid that Esau is coming to kill him. Because why would you travel with 400 men, with an army, if your face is towards peace? So, what Jacob does, and this is a teaching for everybody, for us, is he is preparing in three ways. So, first, he's trying to appease his brother. So, he sends many, many, many gifts to his brothers, and he sends them in a very interesting way. He doesn't just say, here, take 20 or 200 cows and sheep and donkeys and camels. What he does, he divides them. He divides them into different camps. So he would know what is the indication of where this is going, if Esau is preparing for war or for peace. So, but this is something. There's a lesson there that he tells his people to divide, to make spaces between the camps that he sends as gifts to his brother. And the lesson for life is to make spaces, not to bundle everything together. The idea of making spaces is actually holiness, is to separate, to make distinct. That Shabbat is a holy day because it's separate from the week. We don't just do everything we do on Shabbat during the week and vice versa. It's a special day. So we put a breath between it. For example, when we make a blessing, So we shouldn't just say Baruch atah. We should make spaces between Baruch atah Adonai and then so forth. So um, in life, when we finish high school, take a little break between high school and college. Don't just go directly into college. You finish college, take a little breath, and make your life more distinct. So so he sends all this gifts, but he doesn't know if the gifts will help. So he prepares also, but before the gifts, actually, before he even sends the gift, he prays to God. So it's praying, then gifting, and then at the end he is preparing for war. If the two are not going to help, then he's going to have to fight. So so then he sends the gift, and then he sees that actually his brother is coming in peace. But before he goes, he crosses the himself the Abok River, the Jordan River. It says here, after spending the night there, he selected from what at hand these presents for his brother Esau, and look at how much he sends him. He sends 200 she goats and 20 he goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milk camels with their colts, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 she donkeys and 10 donkeys, male donkeys, many, many, many gifts. And then there's the at night, and what happens? He goes back and forth. He brings all his people and his all his belongings over the river, and then there is a um, there is a point where Jacob is alone. And that is, these are immortal words that the Torah tells us. In verse 25, in chapter 24, it says, Vayivater Yaakov levado. These are three words in Hebrew. After he moved everything over the river, there was a point that the Talmud says he just went by himself to just to check again. You know, when you leave a hotel room and you just buy for just to make sure, you go back again into the room. Everything, all the luggage is already in the lobby. Everybody is waiting downstairs, but you just want to make sure to check one more time that you didn't leave anything in the room. So he goes around just the camp to see if he left any little things. And the Talmud says, why did he even bother with this? The little stuff, leave it alone. But the answer is righteous people work very honestly and hard to earn their money, and they're not going to just let it go to waste. So he goes around there and he brings this stuff. So again, also when you're in exile, when you're not home, when you're a refugee, when you know that resources dry out, you get to be more concerned about every little thing. So he does go back, and then he's by himself. And when he's by himself, the word levado already appeared once in the Torah. And when is that word? When does it appear? When God sees Adam and he says, it's not good for a man to be alone. So we know that being alone is not viewed as a good thing. However, in this context, because alone is vulnerable, alone is could be lonely. Um, Alone is not why we're here. We're here to be in a community and relationship and in conversation. So he is alone. However, alone, there's a positive side to every negative. By himself, it means that he is connected the most to God now. He could really have the deepest conversation with God. I just saw a conversation with one of the the hostages that came out of Gaza, and he was in the tunnels. Shem Tov, his last name, and he said that they brought him down. He wasn't a religious person, and they brought him down to the cave, to the tunnel, and it was um, like 40 meters underground. So 40 meters is like 120 feet underground, and he was by himself, and it was totally dark. There was nothing. You couldn't see anything. Can hardly breathe, of course. And he said, in that moment, he connected to God like he never connected before or after. And he said, of course, uh, in a kind of quote unquote, if he misses anything in the being a captive there, was the way he spoke to God. So levado, to be alone, has that aspect. So it says Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him. Now we say that this was an angel, but the text says it was a man. A man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. Okay, and that's why the rabbis now they understand that this is an angel that looks like a human being, because why would he? Why would it matter that the dawn came, the break of the dawn? And it says when he saw that he had not prevailed against him, that angel, he wrenched Jacob's hip at its socket. So he hit him under the belt, so to speak. He used the move that to trick him, to hurt him so he can run away. And and Jacob wouldn't let him go. And the angel said, dawn has broken and I need to go. So that's how we know that he had a task to wrestle with Jacob, and now he had to leave, to disappear. So Jacob says, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. And that's an interesting thing also. What does that mean? You're asking for a blessing from your enemy or somebody you just wrestled with? So the Talmud says this was the angel of Esau. He was wrestling with, it could be with his own fears, with himself, with his identity. There are many ways that we can see it. But he wrestled. This is why what people are most afraid to do today. And we use all the distractions that are available to us, mainly screens, to make sure to avoid that moment of silence with God and with ourselves. And actually, Yom Kippur, when God says, on Yom Kippur, you should answer your soul. But the word to answer the soul is the same word as torture your soul. Ve'initem et nafshotechem. It's a painful experience to be alone with God and alone with ourselves and having to answer ourselves and deal with our fears. So when Jacob now is left alone and he's wrestling with this figure, he's now wrestling with himself. And where is he now? Like Adam in the Garden of Eden, when God asked him, "Where are you?" Ayeka. He knew where he was physically, but he wanted to know where he was mentally and spiritually. So Jacob's wrestling with the angel here is to find his own place. Is he a Jacob or is he something else now? Remember the word Jacob, the name Jacob, he receives the name Jacob because he held on to his brother's heel. So he's a follower. Jacob means heel or to delay or to hold back. So up until this moment, he was a person who was a tent dweller. He was a follower. He maybe was more timid. He was afraid. He was an exile. And now he returns to the land. And the same idea is foreshadowing when we return to the land. Think of modern Zionism too, that return to the land after many centuries, but now it returned in a different way. It was not the timid exile person, but it formed an army and a government and a structure that would defend itself and be strong. So Jacob now has to be that. So he wrestled with that angel, and he overcomes that force, and he wants the blessing. And Jacob said, "Pray, tell me your name." But he said, "I can't tell you your name." But he does tell him. He asked him, "What is your name?" The angel asked Jacob, "What is your name?" Almost like saying, "Where are you?" God asking Adam, "Where are you?" Because a name for us in Hebrew is the essence of a person, is where the person is. So he tells them, "My name is Jacob." And the angel says, "From now on, you are getting another name, another essence. And your name now is going to be Israel." So this moment is really the birth of our name for forever. And actually, when Zionism returned to the land and established the modern state of Israel, they were looking for different names until they reached the name Israel. They wanted to maybe Zion, maybe there was a couple of other options that I can't think of it right now. But then they thought about Israel. So the name Israel, of course, has the name El in it. So that means the name of God. El as strength. The word El means strong. It also it is a general name for God as a strong essence, but it could be used in other contexts. And then Yashar, Yashar El, which means I see God. I am in front of God. Yashar means direct or straight, but it also means to see. So, of course, to see something, you have to have a direct view. So, meaning in the presence of God. So now Jacob moves from a follower to a leader, someone that has God in his presence. Of course, we see the main strength as if you see God in your presence all the time. And some synagogues have at the on top of the ark the phrase "Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid." I see God in front of me always, and that really is the main source of strength, the tree of life, that we always have access to God. Because if you think about it, nothing in this life is permanent. It doesn't matter what it is. Only God is permanent in this world. So if you connect to God, this is where we get our real permanence and strength. So he's now in that mindset. When he left 20 years before, he was afraid and he prayed to God and he said, if you bring me back, I will build you the house of prayer. I will do this and that. And God promises him, I will be with you in through thick and thin. And when he comes back 20 years later, he realizes God was there through thick and thin. He saved him. He was in Laban's house and an oppressive environment, but he came out unscathed. So he tells him, your name is now going to be Israel. And then Jacob realizes he was just fighting with an angel of God. And he saw God face to face and he didn't die. And he's thankful. And he says, this is the place where I saw God face to face. And he called this place Peniel, a place that I saw God face to face. So after this struggle with the angel, he finally crosses into the land. And think of that moment. Just before he entered the land, he gets his new entity, or he gets his salvation in many ways, or redemption, and so forth. It's another foreshadowing. It's a foreshadow for redemption, because this is a redemptive moment, and we wait for the Messiah, and we say that the Messiah will come right at the end, when we almost give up on our hope. Just like the Israelites in Egypt, God took them out in the last minute before their identity went away as faithful people because they were so oppressed. So God, in a sense, tests our faith to the last minute to see if it's true faith. So he received kind of that identity just before he entered the land. So he is now converted. He's not the same person that he left. He went through that maturity, and he discovers God on his own. We keep saying that in our prayers, we say the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. We don't bundle and say the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because even though it's the same God, they had to find God in their own way. So he found God, and he's now Israel. So he crosses the river, and now he's still not sure that Esau is coming in peace. So what does he do? Just like he asked his servants before when he was sending the gifts to his brother to put spaces between the camps, he's doing the same thing. So first, he divides the camp altogether. He says, looking up, Jacob saw Esau coming with a 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two maids. So he has four wives, two wives and two concubines, but the tribes, his children. At this point, he has 11 children. Benjamin has not been born yet. He divides. They all come from the four women, and so what he does, he's dividing the camp, and he says he puts the maids and their children first. It's kind of a little bit not politically correct when we read it. He, in a sense, put the he makes classes between the camp. So the maids and their children go first. So if Esau somehow attacks the camp, he attacks the children of the maids. And then Leah at the end, and then it says, and Rachel at the end. It uses the same word that in Hebrew, the word acharon is last. So he says he put Leah and her children last, but then he puts Rachel and Joseph last. So in a sense, they wanted to tell us that there's no division between Leah and Rachel, but really, 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 his most precious child and wife is Rachel and Joseph. And that's, of course, when they enter the land later on, the brothers are jealous of Joseph. And so these indications are already there that he makes preferential treatment, unfortunately, but maybe there's no other way to do it. So he goes and he bows down 7 times until he reaches Esau. And the Talmud says maybe he's giving Esau too much respect, or he is lowering himself too much in the eyes of Esau. And he keeps calling him my Lord, my Lord. But he's afraid, and he wants to make sure he appeases his brother Esau. But then there's a point where in chapter 33, verse 4, where it says that Esau ran to greet him, and he embraced him, and falling on his neck, he kissed him, and they wept. Wow, that's amazing. Think about it. You're terrified, and then not only are you not being killed, but you're being embraced and welcomed so powerfully. There's a word, the word when he kissed him on his neck, when it says that they fell on each other's neck, and then he kissed him. And the word he kissed him, if you look at the text, has dots above each word. Each letter has a dot on top of it. And when we have those cases, there are very few in the whole Torah. It's like an exclamation point. Think of the sign of the exclamation point, exactly the line and the point. So here it's just above the text, but each letter has a dot on top of it, which means that pay attention, pay attention. It's a blinking red light. So the Talmud has to explain this. What is this about? That the word to kiss him, he kissed him. Why would it be so alarming? It's a beautiful scenario here that we have. But the Talmud tells us the word kissed him, the word to kiss in Hebrew is the same word as bite, as to bite. Neshika and neshicha. It's the same word. So what it means is sometimes you have to be more careful of someone who kisses you and embraces you than someone who you know is about to bite you and not pretending to kiss you. The way that the rabbis compare it today, when I went to yeshiva, this is the example that they kept giving, is America. That America versus everywhere in the world that Jews lived in the diaspora and history, when they were bitten. We were bitten everywhere we were, and they didn't pretend to like us. They may have lived in peace with us for a while or let us be, and but we were never equal citizens. They never pretended that they're embracing us. America, the first place that gave us equal citizenship, a decade before the French Revolution, that brought the concept of equal citizenship to the world. America did that 10 years earlier, and it gave equality to Jews. But what the rabbis are saying, that America, it with its embrace, that of course was so good to the Jewish people, but we also make a distinction. Something that is good for the Jewish people as a people may not be good for Jews. Because even though it gave us a safe haven in the world, and of course equal citizenship and a place to flourish, it also, its embrace held us back with, of course, assimilation, interfaith, and people who just really left the tradition altogether in order to fit in the American society, to be American first, and then Jew second, or only American. So, in a sense, they say, Jews have been in America 6 million people, right? In the United States, we say that we are about 6 million people. But think of how long we've been 6 million people. America grew so much from the War of Independence, but the Jewish people somehow, since our waves of immigration, we've been consistently 6 million. Why are we not 20 million? Because we are also we keep being assimilated and interfaith and intermarry and so forth. So America, in a sense, we lost more Jews in America than we lost in the Holocaust, and of course, different way, and we have to put it in context. But in terms of that embrace, there was a bite in that embrace. So Jacob teaches us right there, in like 3,000 years ago already, almost 4,000 years ago, that this is not to be aware of that. And then when Esau says to him, "You should join me, come join me," Jacob gives an excuse to Esau not to join him. Because when Esau looks about and he saw all the women and the children, and he asked, "Who are these with you?" And he answered, "The children with whom God has favored your servant." Okay, so he lowers himself in the eyes of Esau and said, "Your servant," and so forth. But he sees all the camp of Jacob, and he wants to. Esau says to him, "Come with me, live with me," and then what Jacob says to him, he says, "Let my Lord go on ahead of his servant," meaning, you go, and he says, "while I travel slowly." at the pace of the cattle before me, at the pace of the children, until I come to you, my Lord, to Seir. So I will come to you. I'll arrive, but I have my own pace. I don't want to hold you back. And Esau then says, and then Esau said, let me then assign to you some of the people who are with me, meaning to protect you, to be with you in that way. But he said, oh no, my Lord is too kind to me, meaning don't worry, I'll be okay. But the point is that he did not want that embrace, because that embrace would mean that he would have to give up his now identity, and be emerged with submerged, or somehow linked to Esau. So it says, so Esau, Jacob journeyed to Sukkot, and he built a house for himself, and then Esau went to his land. So it's interesting that it's Sukkot here too, because as we were talking about foreshadowing what will happen to the children later on, is when the children of Israel leave Egypt, the first place they settle is Sukkot. So it's kind of a full circle. But the point is that Jews and Judaism somehow always have to stay separate to keep our identity. Um, in a sense, one way or another, we have no choice, even if we think we have a choice. There's a phrase that if we don't separate ourselves, the nations that we dwell in will find a way to separate us. And in Hebrew, it says, "Im Israel lo sim kiddush," meaning sanctifying. The kiddush that we sanctify the Shabbat, we make it holy and separate. If we don't do the kiddush, the nations will do havdalah. The havdalah is the ceremony we do after Shabbat to make a separation between the holy and the mundane. So they'll find a way to separate us. And we see that it's true. It doesn't matter how much we want to assimilate and to be like the nations. One way or another, they'll find a way to say, but they're Jewish, they're the Jews, or so forth. And we see it now in America, how on the left and on the right, that there are those voices that try to separate us. Okay, so this is the first part of the parasha, and then we'll look at one more story in the parasha. Now Jacob is wants to settle in the land, but you'll see consistently throughout the Bible, every time we want to just be quiet and sit peacefully, God brings something, some drama, to make sure we understand that we can't rest in this world. The way to rest in this world is only on Shabbat. Every time we want to say, we have arrived our peaceful existence, God brings something else that we have to deal with. So the first thing that happened when Jacob returns to the land, Dinah, the daughter of Leah, goes out to see. It says she wanted to, the daughter of Leah had born to Jacob, went out to visit the daughters of the land. Now, she could have been the only daughter he had up until now, and from now on, we don't hear about any other daughters of Jacob. So she has 12 brothers, but she wants a female companion or a friendship. So she goes out and she is, again, every time we're alone, we are vulnerable. It's the same idea as Eve was walking in the Garden of Eden, and the serpent took advantage of her being alone. So the Shechem, his name is Shechem, or what we call Shechem today, Nablus. He's the person. He's the son of Hamor, the Hittite, and he's the chief of the country. And he saw her and took her and laid with her and disgraced her. So he rapes her. He takes her forcefully, and he sleeps with her, and he takes her. But he loves her, and he's being strongly drawn to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and in love with the maiden. So he wants to now marry her. So he goes to his father and he says, I love her and I want to marry her. So they go to Jacob with a proposal and saying to Jacob, tell us anything you want as mohar, as an endowment, and we will give it to you. And Jacob, he's with his children at this point, and he's of course very mad and upset that his daughter was raped. But he is new to the land. He's not as numerous as other nations who sat in the land, and he doesn't want to upset his. He's afraid that if he does anything or attacks them, they will attack back and wipe out the whole camp. So when they came, Hamor and Shechem, to negotiate with Jacob about buying Dinah, the two brothers, Simeon and Levi, tell them they're gonna trick them now. They tell them, if you want to marry us, and that we will marry your daughters and you will marry our daughters, you have to do one thing, because we can't be with people who are uncircumcised. That if you want to really dwell together, then you have to circumcise. And they go back, and they're the leaders in their camp. So they convince all their people. Imagine what it means that they have to convince now the whole people, all the Hittite, to circumcise. So, but they are able to convince them. So they circumcise, and it says on the third day, Simeon and Levi took their swords, meaning their camp, their armies, and they went into the camp of Hamor, and they killed all the men. Why the third day? It says when they were hurting. The third day after the surgery, after the circumcision, is the most painful day. And it's interesting. Even in other surgeries, you feel that somehow the third day is the most painful. So they went in and they killed all the men, and they captured the women and the children and all the property, the booty, and they basically annihilated the people those people. And they came back and they took Dinah, of course, and they killed Hamor and Shechem, and they came back to the camp. And Jacob was outraged. Now he doesn't tell them. He doesn't tell them what you did was wrong, in the sense of the ethical side of it, that you killed all these people, and that you retaliated. So, and that you revenged. revenge is not a not a necessarily a negative thing in the Torah. It's revenge for no reason or for when you don't have the right reason. But revenge appears many times in the Bible. When before David dies, he says to his people, "You should revenge this and those and those who harmed me, uh, because that's a deterrent, right?" So they come back and they tell Jacob that they killed all of them, and Jacob says to them, um, he said, Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me, making me odious among the inhabitants of the land. The Canaanites and the Perizzites, my fighters are few in number, meaning we are a small camp. So that if they unite against me and attack me, I and my house will be destroyed." So he's afraid of the retaliation. He's not rebuking his children because of for any ethical reason, but just strategically, what they did could have put the whole camp in jeopardy. But then they asked him, a again, these are immortal words, and it's been used many times throughout the centuries. But they answered, "Should our sister be treated like a whore?" Which means that there is something about sending a message to the people of the land that you can't mess with us. So then Jacob decides to go up to Beit El, where he started the house of God, where he had the dream. And he promised God that when he returns, he will build the house of God there. So he goes up and he asked the people around him to break away from any idol or any diaspora items that they had. This is the same as when the Zionism started and the Jews came back to the land. Ben Gurion and Eliezer ben Yehuda, and there was a whole kind of teaching in Israel before even the establishment of Israel, to let go of anything that reminded us of the diaspora. The first thing they did was they restricted people from speaking Yiddish or any other foreign language, and they established Hebrew as the language, and people were really ostracized if they spoke any other language. So, in a sense, we want to be now is in Israel, Sabra. In America is the same thing. We want to be Americans now, so we don't speak the languages of our parents. So, and just to wrap this up, Jacob goes up. They bury all the. He tells the people to give him all the. He says, "Come, let us go and Bethel, and I will build the altar there to the God who answered me when I was in distress, and who has been with me wherever I have gone." And it says that they gave Jacob all the alien gods that they had and the rings that were in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the terebinth that was near Shechem. So I don't know if archaeologists have ever excavated that place, but if they find that place, that's a big treasure. So, and they go and he sets up a monument there, and it says that he built an altar to the name the site Bethel, for it was there that God has been revealed to him when he was fleeing from his brother. And that really he comes a full circle. And lastly, he Rachel gives another birth, and it says Jacob gave they set out from Bethel, but when they were still some distance short of Ephrat, Rachel was in childbirth and she had hard labor. And when her labor was at its hardest, the midwife said to her, "Have no fear, for it is another boy for you." But as she breathed her last, for she was dying, she named she named him Ben Oni, the son of my strength, and his father called him Benjamin. So then Rachel dies, and she was buried on the road to Ephrat, now Bethlehem. And then she is buried there in Bethlehem. And just to complete this whole story from Jacob coming, crossing the land, the Jordan River to come into the land, Rachel is now buried. She's the only forefather and mother or parent that is not buried in Ma'arat Machpelah, the cave of Machpelah, the cave of Double in Hebron. All of our foreparents buried there. She's the only one buried on the way. But in a sense, she is now, so she gave birth to one child, the last child in the land. He's the Sabra. They're connecting back to the land. But where she is buried, it says she is now on the border greeting all those exiled that are leaving. She cries for them when they leave, all the exile, but then she welcomes those who return from exile. So it really is a full circle in this story of Jacob coming back to the land, and Rachel then dies, and now she is the monument of welcoming the people from exile. And the full story is about, again, a message of Judaism and the Torah that we will have to go through cycles of death and resurrection, leaving, coming back, exile and return. And that really is the breath of the Jewish people. And we have to continue to remember and to believe that God is with us when we're up and when we're down, when we're gone and when we come back. That really is the message of the Torah.